it poses a really big threat.
That is a multi-layered attack.
It's malicious in intent, design, and implementation.
That means that education on these topics needs to be more readily available.
This stuff is important.
There to completely delete everything off your computer.
We do have some fun stuff from Apple,
Google, and Tesla.
Intel.
This is some next level announcement stuff.
Update your computer.
Like, how is she qualified for this role?
It's like making a film major a programmer, man.
No,
Exactly. Hold up, we dem boys of I4O. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 8 of Industry 4.0, the only podcast that suggests that you regularly update your printer drivers.
Welcome to Industry 4.0.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 80 of I4O. Thank you all who were tuning in early for the stream that happened right before this, for the little getting used to the new setup session that me and Ervin just had.
Yeah, Matt and I were playing around with a little new setup, and then we're figuring out all the kinks.
Yep.
So thanks for
I had double for like 1 second, and then I fixed it. We're good. We're good
good now.
Yeah, I promise.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, but
Knock on wood. I'm not gonna knock. It's gonna disturb the microphone.
Yes, but with the new year comes obviously new things. Like, I have all these fancy new toys on this computer in order to hopefully make this live stream and hopefully podcast a more pleasing experience. There may be some bigger changes down the pipeline, but that's a new year, new us type thing and not fully baked yet. So once we get the details and everything on that, then we'll pass that along to you guys as the listeners. But we were looking through the news this past week, and we pretty much decided that there's not a whole lot going on.
Nothing really happened between last episode and the new year. So
the only thing that happened was 2019. So with that, we figured we would kind of use this episode as an opportunity to send off a year in I4O in what we have done with our podcast over the past year. And a lot has happened. I compiled a list of some of our better topics throughout the year, at least just ones that I thought were better. It's very possible that these are hated amongst you. So But I don't know. You had a chance to look over it, so I trust that you've made your changes if you did. But just to kind of go over a few of them, I can't believe like the flamethrower was announced this year. Like that's how long 2018 was.
Yeah. And I have it. Oh no, I don't have it out.
You don't?
I hit it.
Oh man, did you have people come
it.
over where you didn't want them seeing your flamethrower?
No comment.
Doing some roofing? No comment. But yeah, so that was a pretty fun trip, which took place months after we talked about it, and we like were joking about it, but you were probably just secretly pre-ordering it in the background.
May or may not be true.
So by the end of the episode, you probably knew you were getting it.
Yeah, because it sold out pretty quickly after, and as I saw like tweets and everything from Elon saying the last numbers is almost sold out, I was like, all right, I gotta get this, get on this. I'm not gonna miss this.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was a cool trip. It was nice to be able to see like the Boring Company process and kind of learn a little bit on like how they handled the technology, and we saw a little bit more when they had a live stream later this winter, but it was still pretty cool to like see how that whole thing works and like just learn about Boring Company in general, because I didn't know a whole lot about them before that to begin with. But yeah, another thing which I'm incredibly impressed is only in 2018 is Starman going to space.
This was a pretty epic thing.
So long ago.
Yeah, it feels like a long time ago, but it's only
2 days after the Super Bowl was when we did the episode that covered it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And it's almost...
I remember I was watching this live in my car while at an airport to leave for our flight. So I was like going to the last minute to go to the gate to catch a flight. I was like, I'm not gonna miss this.
Yeah.
I took all this time, pulled out my phone, and I watched this thing live, and my jaw was on the floor the entire time, especially when those two rockets landed simultaneously.
That was some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The GIF of both of those rockets landing at the same time was like among the coolest things that I've probably ever seen.
Starman just chilling and overlooking Earth.
He's still out there.
Which SpaceX got in trouble for later on.
They did?
Apparently there's this rule by NOAA, who does the weather stuff, that you have to get permission to show Earth in that view, and they didn't do that.
Oh, really?
I don't know the exact details. I might have it wrong, but I know they definitely got in trouble.
The Earth
for
is
showing for that. Yes, the Earth is copyrighted.
Copyright infringement on Earth.
They didn't want you know what? This is another thing in the flat Earth conspiracy people. Another proof, right? You can't. You need approval to go up that high to show the entire Earth like that. You gotta protect. You don't want that information to get out. Yeah,
that's true. We don't want the lizard people to have their
your other podcast is filtering into this one, so we should move on.
Yes. Moving right along to an even more interesting topic. One of my favorite articles this year. Ajit getting the NRA's Courage Award and a ceremonial gun for saving the internet. So this year brought a lot of news with net neutrality. We went from hopeful to net neutrality to it's gone in the matter of a year. So with that came obviously a few people that are very happy about that for reasons that I have no idea still to this day. Among them is the NRA. And they're very happy with giving Ajit the Charlton Heston Courage Under Fire Award. It sounds even dumber the second time we talk about it.
No.
Like, I don't think this is aged at all well, which is just funny. But I'll spare everybody the details of talking about it. I just thought that was like one of the more wacky things to happen this year. And like, I can't believe we were covering this type situations. Another one of those was the drunk man who accidentally took a $1,600 Uber from West Virginia to New Jersey. So speaking of like wild things happening, imagine
I love Uber's response. He's like, we just took him where he told us to take him to.
He was just blackout drunk.
Like he said he wanted to go to Jersey, and we're not gonna question him.
Yeah. And he's like, I just woke up. And he's like, why the F am I in a car next to some random guy I don't even know? But I still think it's funny how he honored that, and he gave the driver 5 stars and gave the driver money to cover the tolls for the way home. And that cost him a lot of money. Who'd have thought that vacationing to New Jersey could be so expensive?
Yeah.
Another one was the release of the 2018, the infamous now 2018 iMac Pro or Apple MacBook Pros. Those have been undergoing a lot of issues.
Specifically the i9 models, which were only operating properly in a freezer.
Yeah. It seems like there's been better explanation since this article that has been provided to kind of explain what's going on with the thermal throttling, as well as some more information about the tests that were specifically being run. And it turns out that this particular YouTuber, Dave2D, who it was incredibly clever that he did this, but the test that he did was testing like the worst possible optimized software for a MacBook. So obviously it's going to perform poorly.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be an excuse.
No, it's true. Yeah, the MacBook shouldn't need to thermal
especially like a
this.
$3,000 computer shouldn't perform that badly, irrelevant.
Yeah, like if you're going to put an i9 in it and it's going to be a desktop grade chip, give it a fan.
Yeah.
Give it a
bigger fan. Bigger fan.
Can you imagine a CPU core sticking out of that MacBook? That would be interesting. But that was talked about in March. So moving right along to April, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary as a podcast. Yeah. And also, there was somehow this jumped ahead. I jumped way ahead.
Oh, yeah. You skipped a couple.
Yeah. I think it just didn't go in order. Oh, because I didn't put any links in. Okay. That's right. I see. So back to the actual topic. I'm used to just all these being links.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't have to keep chronological. Just keep going.
Some of the more interesting stuff. Cambridge Analytica. Celebrities' influence on the stock market. Uber, that fatality that happened with the Uber autonomous vehicle, the woman who was hit, which started this whole, like, I almost want to call it just a panic about autonomous vehicles, and kind of got that conversation into the forefront in like terms of safety, which when you look back at it is probably for the better, but the way that it happened, I'm pretty sure Uber would like to have that back.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And that person may want to have their job back, but that's neither here nor there. But so I/O 2018, which was something that we were both very excited about at the same time, and then quickly kind of fell off. So I don't know about you, but
things that happen at Google I/O don't get released. We sort of had our jaws on the floor when Duplex was shown off. It's actually out in a form, in a way.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's still incredible. Call screen, is that what you're talking about?
No, well, call screen is that, but there's actually a Duplex thing where it'll actually go out and call businesses and make reservations for you. It's very limited, so it's only available in select cities, and you have to be invited. So it's only a very select view. Yeah, it's pretty much a closed beta. Okay. So it is out in a form. So we did get that, but it's called call screening is, I guess, a form. Yeah, it is a form of that. Yeah, but you're controlling what it's saying. You're tapping what the responses are. With Duplex, it makes the decisions for itself. Yeah.
The one thing that I'm impressed with was the amount of stuff that we actually got from this I/O versus other years in the past. Like usually like half of it's vaporware and the other half of it doesn't show up at all, or it's like delayed. But we just had the usual 6 or 7 month delay on some of the products that were announced at I/O and like the different technologies that were announced at I/O. I don't think we've seen Google Photos colorization yet. I've seen.
No. What do you mean by that?
So colorization was
Google where it takes a black and white photo and makes it. No.
We have something which takes portrait photos and applies a black and white background to the bokeh part of the image.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah. I think that's just another AI effect that they have. But things like duplex, smart compose from Gmail, adaptive battery, phones being updated very quickly through Project Treble, that was impressive to watch throughout the year.
Except Samsung.
Except Samsung, yeah. That's to be expected. Maybe when we get later in the podcast, maybe I should change one of my speculations to Samsung adapting Project Treble, but we'll see. That may be too wild of a speculation. We'll leave Soldier Boy from that one.
Crazy.
Yeah, we'll leave the Soldier Boy console on the spot where it's at. And one thing that me and Jeff had that it's a conversation that we had that I think everybody should give a listen to, just because the conversation I felt was good and a lot of good information was delivered and talked about, and we had like a nice conversation going, was the conversation about workplace burnout. That was one of my favorite discussions of this year. It like kind of always stuck with me as one of the points of the episode that we had one of our better conversations. But yeah, I encourage anybody who wants to give that a listen to go back to the 26th of June in episode 56 and check that out. And who knows, maybe I'll make a little segment for YouTube. And anybody on YouTube, welcome to the show, by the way. We are now broadcasting on YouTube and Twitch again. So cheers to all of our YouTube friends who've missed us for so long. I'll try to delete that old stream because I'm pretty sure YouTube gives you one take and then saves it as a video.
No.
Yeah. So either way, I'll try to remove the old one. So enjoy the blooper reel of us figuring out that stream while we still can. So back to this section. I think we're finally caught up. Everybody's favorite cryptocurrency in August was delisted from its final crypto exchange, BitConnect. This would be a perfect time for me to have that video handy, but I don't. But either way, that was an incredible moment in cryptocurrency, and I think honestly kind of marked the beginning of the end for cryptocurrency. Yeah. At least in 2018, I can't say anything about 2019 because it's been known to bounce back.
Yeah,
quickly.
I don't know.
I'm not sure what that sound was, but
yeah, we'll see what happens with crypto. I know the actual stock market isn't doing so hot in 2019, and it isn't rumored to be doing so well in the future either this year. Mm-hmm. We'll see if crypto sort of follows that route, or if people will start. My speculation has been if they see the stock market sort of start going downhill, you might jump ship and go to crypto, and that might bump the price a little bit. It'll be interesting year.
Yeah, I think so.
Say the least.
I mean, and cryptocurrency has been known to bubble and balloon in the course of hours. So
yeah,
who knows where it'll be in 5 minutes, let alone a year.
Yeah.
But either way, something that won't be back is Twitter and Alex Jones. His account is permanently banned. I still had to squeeze a segue in there. Had to get one in. But so that was another interesting conversation that we had about his accounts violating their abusive behavior policies and the flame wars that happened around that across the internet. Some people were happy, some people were not, but I think more people were probably okay with it than either emotion. But I think the biggest things that happened this year, honestly, was like Facebook and then like the usual circus of phone releases. Like, I don't think there was outside of that a lot of like stupid stuff, but I think that those were like the heavy hitting topics of 2018. Yeah. And I think 2018 saw like a big focus in getting us back to like a call to attention to bringing people back to just kind of understanding what their privacy is on the internet and like kind of getting a better grasp of exactly what companies are collecting from them in their online experience.
Yeah, we saw some great legislation get passed in Europe, the GDPR. Hopefully we will see something similar pass in the US, hopefully in 2019.
From the Ajit Pai hearings and the Mark Zuckerberg hearings, it sounds to me like they do have plans to get those in the works. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw any of them come through the pipeline in the next year. So 2019 could be the way for the U.S. to kind of take the charge in privacy.
Hopefully it doesn't take shape in form of what the SOSTA legislation got passed.
Yeah.
So where it was under the umbrella of stopping online sex trafficking, right? But it really had an overreaching effect of giving what's it called? Giving the hosts of information online the sort of responsibility of any sort of copyright information. They have to be responsible for what people put on their platform.
That was Odocta who brought that up on our show, right? Yeah.
And also the types of legislations that were just recently passed within Australia. Those were
the scariest.
Yeah, those were scariest, and I don't want the U.S. to start replicating those types of legislations, for sure. So, fingers crossed that the government will do the right thing, but also it's the government. So
yeah, and if we don't have those, we always have like the memes that happen of the year, like the Cards Against Humanity 99% off sale. And
you really like that one. There.
That was incredible.
It was.
That was probably like one of their better ones, I think.
Yeah.
Like the guy who bought the garbanzo beans was tweeting. He was like, "I better tell my wife before all these beans show up at the house." But yeah, like I don't know. Like there was some of that stuff that we talked about with like the legislature, I think is important to bring into 2019. To like still like people are still gonna push these laws through, and it's kind of on us and anybody listening and whoever else to kind of make their voice heard when that kind of stuff comes out. So memes aside, it's important.
Now also, we move on to the best tech of 2018.
Yeah. Well, real quick though, I did want to make a shout out that we did have some really good guests on this year as well.
Yes, we did.
We had Odocta and Justin Robert Young on the show, and I'm hoping that maybe we can either get them back or start integrating some other guests into our cycle just to kind of keep things exciting a little bit. That would be maybe a New Year's resolution for us in our long laundry list of changes that we have in the pipeline. But we'll see. I'm excited to take this podcast into 2019. But yeah, we should talk about our individual opinions.
Did you make a nice little intro splash screen animation? I4O best of 2018.
I did not. But I can throw up the intro again if you want to watch that.
No, it's fine. We should get Thompson on that.
But yeah,
ASAP.
Best tech 2018. But yeah, so I did want to like go over that though, because I feel like this would be a good discussion to have. Just like some of the technology, and I wish we could have gotten everybody on for this, but schedules and circumstances aside, we'll have to do this with them either next year or whenever we decide to do another one of these, if we do. But this segment is just kind of what had the biggest impact on us, whether we owned it or not, in 2018.
Or the industry as a whole. That's why I thought it. And each one of us had a pick, so I guess we'll go ahead and list first one, and then I'll give my reasons, and you can list yours for your first one, what your reason why you picked that one.
Yeah, and we'll kind of go through each one.
We have some different categories.
Do you want to do 3, 2, 1? Kind of.
Oh, okay.
Since we're doing we're doing least to most, I guess. I don't know if you did it chronologically like I did, but
no, not really. But
least to most important in your opinion. Just do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So first category for the best tech is the smartphone category, and my third one that I picked, and it looks like you picked the same one. I'm interested to hear why, but for my reasoning, I picked the OnePlus 6T. And mainly I picked it because it's finally available, I'd say more from mass market within the US specifically, and it's actually launching on T-Mobile. And I think, if I'm not incorrect. T-Mobile released some numbers recently in their last quarter saying OnePlus 60 was one of their top selling phones.
Yeah, that
of course,
phone
the iPhone was number one, but
Yeah.
After Samsung and iPhone, OnePlus was up there. And I think either OnePlus said this or T-Mobile did, but they were really happy about that partnerships. And I think that's bringing the availability of these types of phones to more and more people, because in the US, that's how most people get their phones.
Yeah, I think that them making that deal with T-Mobile was probably the best way to break into the US market. It shows people that they have a good phone, and when somebody goes in to upgrade, and they may not necessarily want an iPhone or a Samsung, they'll see this powerhouse of a smartphone for almost like 2/3, if not 1/3 of the price, depending on which one you're looking at.
With some pretty awesome features with in screen fingerprint sensor. Like, I mean, if you show that to like a normal person, quote unquote normal person, not us, like they'll be like, oh my god.
I mean, even if you showed it to me, like that'd be like, that's pretty sweet. Like if I didn't know about that, like that phone just, it's impressive both in features and in specs. And I think it's a standout device to show people exactly what a phone is when they don't cut corners. The price is debatable. It's still a relatively expensive phone, but for what you're getting, it's a fantastic device. It's one of the most like RAM heavy devices out there, and for Android, the more RAM you can put in a phone, the better, in my opinion. Everybody knows the Google Pixel 3 issues. Well, not everybody, but everybody who listens to our show would know about like the Pixel 3 issues with RAM and the complaints that some people were having. And even on MKBHD's YouTube channel, he was complaining that it would kill Spotify in the background when he was like listening to music or something like that.
Yeah, that's just crazy for a flagship phone. That shouldn't happen.
And to see OnePlus 60 come in and you don't have those problems, the screen's really smooth. It now has an in-screen fingerprint scanner. The camera's fine, like it's good for anybody's standards. I think that's why that phone is solid in number 3, because it really sets the bar for what a phone could be at that price range.
Yeah. All right. So number 2 for me was
our choices were wildly different.
Wow. So I changed it to, I had the iPhone XS Max. I was like, wait, I should put the iPad, but I was like, realized that was the smartphone pick, so I was like, to change it back. So I put in the iPhone XS at, oh Jesus, Apple
tennis match.
Your naming scheme, please change. I should move that to one of the improvements. There we go. I'll do that later, later for 2019. But while I do that, I put the iPhone XS Max as number 2 for myself for smartphone pick, and that's my own personal smartphone. Have it here. I got it on day 1, picked it up, went in physically into the Apple store, stood in line like a Apple fanboy, and picked it up. It's been a great phone. Takes great pictures. It's super fast. And I just love.
What's got that
A12 chip. Honestly, the Face ID is what most impresses me. It just works. You wouldn't think, right? But it just works. It just unlocks. One of the things that I had issues with, I had the 7 Plus before. I had the Touch ID. If your fingerprint was just slightly wet, it wouldn't work. So you had to wipe it on your pants and try again. This, if I'm doing something in the kitchen, I want to look at my phone and just quickly slide up, and it just unlocks. But overall, great experience, no issues whatsoever. And overall, it's a really good phone. You'll find out later why I didn't pick it as number 1, because I found something better about one particular feature. But Matt, you can go and say what your number 2 was.
My choice is just slightly lower in specs than the iPhone XS Max, but it's a lot lower in price. So I picked ironically enough, I picked the Pocophone F1. I really hope it's called the F1 because I didn't look it up, but it's the Pocophone that everybody saw on YouTube around this year. Just because it is a $300 phone, and it has a camera that beat the iPhone XS in a blind test. So everybody who watches tech videos on YouTube saw that Marquez Brownlee did a blind test of many different smartphones and kind of put them up against each other in like an NBA style bracket for the tournament. And they the Pocophone beat the iPhone, and it actually made it all the way to the grand finals against the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. And now that I'm actually thinking about that phone, I may change my number one, but I still may keep what I have. But the Mate 20 Pro is pretty good, but it's not sold in the US. But the Pocophone F1 is, and that phone is a budget phone by every stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, it has the same impact to me, I feel like, as the original OnePlus One, in that it was a very cheap phone, but it compromised in very few places. And I feel like the places where it did compromise were smarter than other places. I believe it still has a headphone jack, which is important. But it's a cool phone, and it's like kind of showing people that budget phones still have a place in the market. And I think that's important to people, because with phones going over upwards of $1,500, I think it's important to know that there are still good $300 options for people who want to buy a phone outright and have something that'll work from day one and it'll be dependable. So that's why I picked that for number 2. You want to talk about your number 1 pick?
Yeah, number 1 for me is the Pixel 3's camera. Not the Pixel 3 phone as a whole, but just its camera. So I'm a big camera nerd. I own multiple different types of SLRs, and when I watched Google's event of them showing off night sight, I was very skeptical. I was like, all right, this is just marketing BS, right? And when I first saw it, because, you know, companies do this all the time. They show up these great photos during keynotes and the phone comes out and it's like, eh. But the Pixel 2's camera was really good, with the best. And the Pixel 3's cameras overall, without the night sight stuff, was shown to be even better. They still stuck with the single camera approach, so no dual cameras, which is fine. But the Pixel C3's camera, plus with that night sight feature, when I actually saw those live the actual photos from real live phones in people's hands, I was amazed. Those pictures on there are game changing.
Yeah.
I really hope that people start copying those type of features. I really do. From other manufacturers.
That
Apple.
night sight is just like straight wizardry.
Yeah, it pretty much is.
Yeah.
And AI, man.
Yeah.
They put in a lot of machine learning, a lot of AI. They hired a bunch of camera experts. They really dedicated some time and effort to making the Pixel line's camera great. And they brought a lot of features, which I commend Google for doing, back to all the previous Pixel phones as well, including the OG Pixel, which I still have briefly before I sold it. But when these features started rolling back to previous Pixels, I put it on that phone, and it still did on somewhat the same level as the Pixel 3, which was pretty awesome of Google for doing it. I commend them for that.
Yeah, no, and I'm impressed with, because like the one thing that I've always heard with the Pixel is that, like, while the iPhone 10 takes amazing photos, it's like the iPhone takes a more like flat image, almost like a raw type image, whereas the Pixel is far closer to where most photographers are getting their image to anyway. It's doing a lot of the work for you, and you're still retaining all of that detail. So,
and it's making it really good for people. It's just like, hey, I want to take a picture, post it to Facebook, make sure it looks good. I don't need to go to a separate app, edit it, make sure, do clear up the shadows, whatever. Most people don't want to do that. They just want to take a good photo, hit that button, and get a great picture. And Google has achieved that. You don't have to go into a separate app, apply a filter or anything. It just looks good straight out of camera, irrelevant of what condition. You can be in a pitch black room. Yeah, and as long as there's some light on your face, it'll make it look
steady enough hand. You're good.
Yeah, and it has that wide angle selfie camera. Oh my god, it's like one things I hate about the iPhone is the selfie camera is way too close, way too narrow. So like you can just see your face, but nothing else. So if you're trying to take a group picture, it's pretty much impossible.
Yeah, I think the selfie
if you have a
camera
larger
should
group.
almost always just be a wide angle camera.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
And the Pixel 3 itself, not even the XL, I think is a sleeper device in itself because it doesn't have that notch. It has all the same features of the larger device. The only thing you compromise is the screen and a smaller battery, which I would argue the screen downsizing kind of brings those phones to the same level of battery, almost. At least in my experience with the Pixel 2, I was getting comparable battery life to people who I knew who had a Pixel 2 XL. So I don't honestly see a problem with purchasing either one. So that's a good pick. I like that device.
I just wish they didn't botch the software launch.
Yeah,
we just heard a lot about the software quality issues as soon as the phone came out with the RAM management and everything we talked about previously, and I just wish that they got that right from day one. And I think when these things come out, people read the reviews and that's what people see, right?
That's what killed the Essential phone.
Right, you're like, okay, it's a good phone, but the software sucks. But like, oh yeah, they fixed it, but then by that time it's past people's minds and they're already thinking about whatever phone they're thinking about picking up next. So if they would have gotten the pictures right from the get-go, I think it would have been better.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, overall I think Google needs to improve. I didn't put this in the next section, but it's fine. I'm just going to mention Google needs to work on their software from the get-go, right? They'll eventually get it right.
Yeah.
But
eventually.
From the start, eventually.
Yeah, and I think it's going to take them a couple more generations to finally get that process ironed out. But in the meantime, I also have a number one pick. And I would have gone with my device, but you can't get it anymore. So I'm going to go with an actual device from 2018. And my top pick for the year is the iPhone XS. And I picked that device because all of the same reasons that you selected the XS, but it comes in a smaller form factor. And 2018 has shown me that is the one difference that I have from you in things, is that I tend to go towards smaller phones now than you. If I had to pick one thing that we're actually different on, it's smartphone size. Everything else, we're pretty much the same person. But with the XS, it's like the first iPhone, I think, ever, short of only the 10, but a lot of people consider the 8 Plus to be the larger one, and has the same camera as the 10 and all that good stuff. But the XS is the first small iPhone which matched in almost every scenario its larger counterpart. And that was something that we had complained about in our first year as a podcast, when those iPhones came out with the 8 and the 8 Plus, how the smaller one, you're compromising features. And that was always one thing that we would tell people when they're looking for a phone, that if you're going to go iPhone and you want the smaller one, you're going to lose out on battery, screen resolution, camera quality. Like, up until then, some of those features weren't carried over, but with the new one, you get the same screen, you get the same camera. You get the same chip. It's like the one time that's ever happened, I think, in Apple's history, when they've had two phone sizes, which I think is killer. And aside from that, it's just an incredibly smooth phone. And the fact that it can record video in HDR is incredible. Like, I find the fact that it can live encode HDR while it's recording video to be just like amazing.
Yeah.
So that's why that's my pick for number one. But the Pocophone was definitely a contender. But I think we should move on to another topic, game console picks. And one thing, and I'll start this segment off. One thing that you're not going to hear us talk about in this segment is Fortnite, even though I just did. Just because we've talked about it enough in 2018, and our 2019 New Year's resolution is to kind of leave that behind us for as much as we can. unless it gets into something like absolutely ridiculous. I don't think we're going to talk about it. But for my number 3 pick for the year, I'm going to have to go ahead and say the PlayStation 4 Pro. Just because of the games that released towards the later half of the year. It's got like Red Dead Redemption, Spider-Man, a laundry list of exclusive titles that have been, in my opinion, just reasons to buy a PlayStation 4, like one after another. And the bundles that they've offered, as well as the sexiest 25-year anniversary console I think I've ever seen that they released in 2018. I think that is absolutely killer. So that's why that's my number pick. It's lacking a little bit. Like, it doesn't do true 4K. It does super sampling to get to 4K. So it kind of lacks a little bit in that department, but I'm not really ever going to notice that.
Unless you're up close to your TV, like watching it.
Yeah. Unless you're looking for it. But it handles HDR just fine when the game is optimized well enough for it. A lot of the HDR issues are game specific. So, and HDR I think is the more noticeable thing anyway. It's far more noticeable than, what's it called? 4K. So, the PlayStation 4 just lacking in that one department. And they just also, at the end of the year, the reason why they made my list is because they announced that they're going to start working with the other consoles to do crossplay. So they finally walked back that decision and understand that people want to play together, no matter what they're on.
Good on them.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I had the Nintendo Switch for my number 3 pick, and for just a little preview of the next one, we kind of swapped. So number 3 it was the Switch for me. I got it after looking at maps when he got it. I was like, this is a fun device, and I've been using it ever since. I got a couple games on there, and I take it with me when I travel. So it's great on planes because they typically just have phone games previously on the plane to play with. But having a real life sort of console available to me where I could just whip out Mario and start going around and playing a real game that actually a console that has some power to it and really good graphics, and offering that quality of software that Nintendo's known for. So I've been really enjoying using that device while on the road, which I'm on quite a bit. I was on during 2018. And I expect it to be on this year as well. So, just really fun device to use for that portability aspect. I did use it while docked to the TV, but most of the time I actually just used it in its portable mode, and it's the form factor is just perfect. I didn't think it would be, but once you hold it and you start playing with it, I think Nintendo knocked it out of the park with this device. And I know it didn't come out this year, but we both got it this year, I think, right?
It's something new for both of us.
Yeah.
No, and I have to agree. That's why it's my number 2, because I've had the PlayStation 4 for longer, but the Pro more recently. And it's just because of the iteration. I think that they did that iteration really well. But the Switch beats it, in my opinion, because of that totally different approach to gaming that you were talking about, where if someone's a lot of times where Katie will be watching a movie or something and I'll want to play some Breath of the Wild or play some Mario Odyssey or whatever, or Smash Brothers or something like that, and I'll just be able to undock it, walk over to the couch, and I'm still in the room, but I'm playing a full console right there. And I'm able to do that completely on my own and not interrupt anything that's happening on the TV, and I can kind of stay in that environment. Same thing even with traveling as well. If I was going away or going to, I've taken it to vacation, because there's always some downtime whenever you're at the shore. You have a couple of hours to yourself or something, just break that out and play some Mario Kart or whatever, and it's really nice. And also the dock is underrated for its portability, because it's only 2 cables in order to get it up and running. which is something that not a lot of people I think have utilized, but it's something that I use all the time.
I do have a question for you. So I know you had the Wii U previously, and you could kind of use that without having the TV on, so someone else could watch it. What's your comparison between that and the Switch?
This is
in terms
better.
of that. Yeah.
First off, the vibration motor on the Switch is one of the best I have ever felt in a game console ever. Like the vibrations in those Joy-Cons, I think, are like some of the most. It's the only thing I can compare it to is the haptic feedback in like an iPhone.
No.
Just because of
how
tight the build is.
So did you never played the game 1-2 Switch? The one. So I got it. Nintendo has put on like a whole bunch of mini games built into this one game, and they make use of the Joy-Con. That's their number one thing. There's a game in there where you each person, it's a competition. Each person holds a Joy-Con, and you have to tilt it to find out how many virtual balls are in like sort of this box that is the Joy-Con. And you can tell, you can actually feel like they were like little metal balls in this box.
That's so weird.
That you're holding. I got to bring that over too. We need to play that.
Yeah. I think
it's a fun party game, but you can actually feel the things that are in. That's how accurate the vibration of the device is. It's kind of crazy.
That's pretty incredible. No, and like that's like one of the coolest things I think, in my opinion. But on top of that, the releases that they've had this year and in years past, just Super Smash Brothers, the Pokemon game that came out, the announcements of basically all of my favorite games that I ever played as a child, like coming back to the Switch in new versions and remakes of the original. Like they remade Katamari, which is an incredibly fun time killer game. If you're looking for just something that's like got a really wacky story and like a fun soundtrack and just like a different gameplay style, it's just I think it just kind of was an A+ all around. And if it wasn't for my number one, it'd be my top pick. So, but yeah, I'm just like thoroughly impressed with that console. I can't say enough about it. And it's very easy to convince people to buy it.
Yeah.
Especially after they try it and they see like how good of an experience it really is. And also being able to play Nintendo games in full 1080p on the TV is something that is only now possible with that console. So that's another benefit to this. It has it's more powerful than the Wii U, despite not being anchored to this console. Like I couldn't take the Wii U controller somewhere else and play a game. It's still anchored within Bluetooth range.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your number one pick, Matt?
Oh, what was my number one pick? My number one pick is the same as yours, shockingly enough. This was the standout game console of 2018 and probably forever. It was a number one seller across all boards, including eBay and Craigslist. It was an original console powerhouse of its own, featuring classic Nintendo titles as well as Sega titles. It was an emulation monster. The game console of 2018, the i4O Awards, goes to the Soulja Boy gamepad. It is it's a unilateral choice across the board on this episode right now. Both me and Ervin 100% wholeheartedly picked that from the bottom of our hearts. The graphics are incredible. The developer has poured his heart and soul into making an original product that is just incredible. And I really think the tech is gonna hold through. It's gonna be strong even into 2019.
Yeah, even though you can't buy it anymore.
Even though he announced they're not selling it. Which just means that now it's the exclusive product of 2019.
Yeah.
So you missed your chance if you waited.
Limited edition.
Yeah.
He forgot to include that in the title.
Yeah. Limited
edition. He just took it off the site.
Yeah. That's it.
Now they're going for thousands of dollars on eBay.
Yeah. Now and then I think he was even going to sell other things too, like the Soulja watch and the Soulja phone and all that stuff. I think this was just the tip of the iceberg in the Soulja Boy walled garden. So and I think that product experience is going to be something incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, let's bring it back down to earth.
Down to earth. We got a next topic of home tech. So anything in the home that you use,
whether it's a
related.
device, smart home product, anything.
Pretty much
anything was fair game.
Yeah, and I switched things around while we were talking because I moved things around. For me, the number 3 pick for home tech is Lenovo Smart Display. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. It is Google Home released sort of specifications, or Google released specifications for sort of a Google Home with a display. So we got some initial launches from both Lenovo and JBL put out devices with, which are basically just, like I said, Google Homes with displays. Fairly simple idea, but the actual execution, once I got my hands on them this year, were pretty great. So once you launch it, you can set up a screensaver where you can select, let's say, all your family members, and it'll scroll through all your photos that you have stored within Google Photos with those people in them, which I thought was just a really awesome feature. It lets you look, just casually cycle through whenever you walk by the device. It just, I can't remember that happened, and it shows the date when that picture was taken in the corner. It's like, oh yeah, that was a good time, and it picks out the good pictures because it's Google's AI behind the scenes, so it doesn't show all the blurry ones or anything like that that you pick. So that was a really useful feature of it. Of course, you can control your smart devices through it. It can do all the other things that a Google Home can. It just has a screen, so it offers a little extra functionality when you're trying to control your smart devices. Like, let's say if you're changing the temperature on your thermostat, you can do it by voice, but also brings up a screen on there where you can actually touch it and manually select the temperature after that fact. Maybe you change your mind from the time you set it, from the time that it actually did the action. You can just slide it. You can do the same thing with lights, how bright or dim you want your lights to be, or to change the colors to that screen, which are pretty cool. It's a great kitchen device. So I actually gave it to my mom for Christmas. It's a great kitchen device. You can put in there. You can pull up recipes. It'll actually walk you through recipes that you search for online, and you can go step by step. And you say, okay, next step, and it'll actually show you what to do to make whatever you're trying to make.
You were awesome that
device. Yeah,
you're really happy about that.
Yeah, it's somewhat surprised by how much I'm enjoying it. Also, how much my mom is actually enjoying using the device. And the number 1 feature, which could be relevant to some people, is we use Duo a lot for video chatting with family members, because I have family all over the place. And this has a built-in camera. So Google came out with one of their smart displays this year during that Google event where they launched the Pixel 3 and the Pixel Slate. They launched their own device, but that thing doesn't have a camera. This one does. And you can actually make video chat calls with this camera. You just, by your voice, say, call Matt Slavin via Duo, and it'll go ahead and make that video call. And the nice thing is this is mainly used in the kitchen for my personal use, and you can just plop it in there. You can be walking around the house, whatever, and you can maintain that video chat call with whoever you're chatting with. A really convenient device for doing that.
No, that thing looked pretty good. From all the reviews I saw, it looked like it was a pretty killer piece of tech. I was pretty a part of me wanted one, but a part of me needed more of a reason for it. So I held off. Yeah.
And I got it from, I didn't plan on I would plan on keeping it for myself. But once I sort of got it and started using it, this makes perfect sense for my mom, because she would use it, all around the kitchen and everything, and talking to her parents over Duo. It turned out a really great device for that type of use. And she loves it. Sounds great. One thing I didn't mention, sounds really, really good. Loud.
Got a better speaker than the official Google one.
Yeah, definitely, because the official Google one is really tiny. It might not look it in the pictures, but it's really small. This one isn't big, but there's a lot more room for the resonance of the speaker, so it has really good bass, better than you would think, and it gets fairly loud. So my mom uses it all the time, just play music around the house.
Yeah.
So overall, that's my. I feel like I've been saying a lot, and it's only my number three pick, but yeah, so far it's been a pretty great device.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a far cry from my number 3 pick, which is the Soldier Boy HomePod, which it is TCL televisions.
That would be great though. What if it would reply in Soldier Boy's voice?
Uses lyrics from his music. Yeah. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I would buy that.
I don't care if it was $12,000. I'd buy it. But no. So my pick was, in a serious sense, the TCL brand of televisions. Just because I've always been under the impression that Samsung and LG TVs were a bit overpriced. So seeing TCL come into the market, especially in the US market in particular, both last year and this year, have been top seller televisions for offering essentially kind of what the Poco phone did and what OnePlus did, which was offer a very compelling budget option which didn't compromise on that many features. So the entire line of their smart TVs in their 4K department have built-in Rokus for anybody who needs a streaming box. They offer full 4K HDR, CEC for control through streaming devices. It's basically a no compromises TV. I noticed very recently though that it does struggle a bit when trying to communicate to streaming devices through optical inputs. So if you have a complex home theater system, that might not be the best option for you. But if you're just connecting a set of speakers to it just to improve the sound, or using a simple soundbar, or if you have, say, like one of those hubs that lets you connect HDMIs in and basically monitors all of that for you, then you should be fine. There are ways around it, but just if you're depending on the TV for a lot of that management, then you may run into some problems. But you're getting a TV that you can get upwards of 65 inches for sub $800, depending on which year you're going for. If you're going for this year's, it may be a little bit more expensive, but if you're going for 2017's, you can get a good discount. We were able to get a 55-inch for $370 on Black Friday, which is like a third or upwards of a fifth of the price if you were to go for Samsung. So it's a pretty incredible option, if you ask me, especially for one that has as many features as it does. And the fact that I've had it for a year now and I'm only just now experiencing some of the shortcomings in what it can and can't do. The screen is still fine. There's no burn-in. The TV it's bright. I'm getting full resolution 4K, and it doesn't get as bright as Samsung TVs, but I never set the brightness all the way up anyway, so I never notice it. But that's my pick for number 3 easily, just because it has changed the way that I look at purchasing televisions, whether it's for budget or for a personal TV, because that's our main TV and it gets used every day, and it has shown no signs of giving up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So number 2 for me is the Apple Watch Series 4.
I'm interested you went with a wearable for that one. I want to hear your.
Yeah, because I got Apple Watch. I went on the Apple Watch bandwagon as soon as shortly after I went on to the Apple sort of ecosystem. I always looked on it I was a long-time Android Wear user, period, and then Android Wear, of course, when it first came out. But I've always been envious of the Apple Watch. It's like, why do I want this thing? And I actually got it, started using it, and it's just a really good sort of device. It's a smartwatch. And one thing that I like about the whole series is that Apple really focuses on the health aspect. And just with the Series 4, they just added a whole bunch of health-related features that I think don't necessarily benefit me specifically, although they definitely are, they could in the future. But overall, as a sort of pushing that tech forward to getting into the hands of more people, and potentially, like we've heard stories just recently of saving lives. So it's particularly with adding this year with the Series 4, the fall detection, and also the ECG, which was recently added via software update to detect atrial fibrillation or AFib for detecting irregular heart rhythm, which is known as a silent killer. So you might not realize that you have it. So it's just really pushing the envelope in terms of getting these devices into people's hands, or in this case on their wrists, and making it, just do the normal thing and do the notifications with the when you get a text message or when you get a call. Those are pretty cool, and doing the walkie-talkie with people, those are fun. But these health features and the decision that Apple made on focusing on those and getting people to actually use it, I think it's great for the overall community to have that sort of technology available to them. And year over year, we keep hearing it's #1 selling watch, like not just smartwatch, watch overall. So it's very popular. More and more people buying into the ecosystem, which I think is just great overall. So that is my #1 or #2 pick.
Some people may be more or less upset with you calling it a watch, but yeah, it's definitely a compelling product for sure. It's really cool. I'm happy with it, but yeah.
By some people, you mean one person?
Yes.
Okay.
You know who that
All
person
right.
is.
Yes, I do.
And pretty much anybody who considers themselves a watch aficionado. But
Yeah.
the #1, it seems like we've reached another agreement. This time for a serious reason. Not
and separate too, right? Because we have both had separate uses for it.
Mm-hmm.
Start off with,
yeah, I'll go ahead. So my pick, and I'm using it right now for the stream, is the iPad Pro 12.9 inch. Maybe less specifically the larger iPad, and more specifically just iPads in general. But it is definitely like a compelling and awesome hardware product that has definitely become a bit of an anchor for my workflow at home when I'm doing tasks that I don't need a desktop for, like a full desktop solution. Like right now, it is remote connected to OBS for this live stream, and I'm able to use it almost as a control panel for the full stream, so I can basically like change between scenes and stuff on the fly with just my hands, and I don't have to worry about using any kind of mouse clicking, and it reduces the noise that you hear in the background. And it's just overall, it's a really awesome product, and I'm like very happy with it. And I'm finding I'm using it also for email stuff and like word processing, and I've been doing a lot of my photo editing on this. I've just recently gotten into like almost amateur photography pretty much, so I'll go out and take some photos, and then I'll come back and I'll edit them on the iPad Pro, and that's been a very pleasing experience. And one thing that, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this, Ervin, just that the pencil for me, like I have the pencil as well. I didn't get the keyboard because I have a separate keyboard that connects via Bluetooth, but the pencil I've noticed has, for me, become more and more of a mouse and less and less of a stylus. Yeah. So I use it for precise selection. And being able to quickly navigate applications and things like that, and not necessarily for drawing. And I mean, the option is there, but it's been more of a productivity thing for me than a creativity.
More of a pointing device. I know, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, neither of us are artists, so yeah. I don't think the drawing feature was really what
I think I drew one thing.
It's not what got us to get the pencil. No, I think it's really great as a that precision selection device. For your finger can only get so precise even on a large screen like the 12.9. But yeah, I had the iPad Pro as well for my #1 pick. but completely different sort of use case. So I do a lot of mobile work, and I sort of transitioned a lot of what I used to do at airports on my laptop on just doing it on the iPad. So I can pull up all the anything work related up on the iPad. You can do split screens with all the words, the Office 365 suite, and just start cranking away and pulling up information, answering emails, and also use it now to automate sort of, or semi-automate my note-taking for any work-related tasks. And a lot of that is with the help of Siri shortcuts, or the Shortcuts app in particular. It really has revolutionized the way that you sort of interact with different information or different aspects on the iPad, or just iOS devices in general. But on the iPad in particular, I
do you have an example of some shortcuts?
Yeah, so one shortcut that I use on a daily basis, when I, let's say, have a meeting with a couple of people, just one person, and I want to take quick notes on exactly what was discussed so I can reference it later. I've really gotten into using Evernote. I know it's been out forever, but I never really had a need to sort of actively use it. But you just install it on pretty much any device and it syncs across, which is great. But not that I'm talking about particularly that note-taking app, but the shortcut that I built is with just a click of a button, it automatically starts listing all the meetings that I had that day. Actually, I modified it just a couple of days ago over the Christmas break to bring up a date selection, so it doesn't just do, let's say I missed taking notes for yesterday's meeting. I can go back to yesterday and pick the meeting from that day. But you can just pick the meeting that you just had, automatically grab what was the title, what time it was, and all the attendees, and it'll automatically pre-populate that within the note. And actually have a template set up. I made a template which you can do in Evernote for notes, so that as soon as you start a note, it brings up that template, and I have all the right fields and everything filled in, and then I can just start manually typing in all the details for my meeting. I can do it during the meeting, or I can do it right after, as soon as the information is fresh. So I really sort of automated that workflow. I just one button, bring in all the information and start taking notes, and have that accessible on any device that I am on. That can be my laptop or phone or whatever. It also offers great this is more of an Evernote review, but it offers great sort of drawing ability as well. So if I wanted to just sketch a diagram with my pencil, I can do that and attach it to the note, and things like that. But
can you do handwritten notes in Evernote?
Yeah, you can. It'll automatically do OCR as well. So it'll detect what you're typing, and there's a great search functionality within Evernote that you just type in the word, and it'll automatically find it either where you manually typed it or you wrote it by hand.
Maybe I'll try that out.
Yeah, it's been pretty good so far. I don't use the handwriting that much. I just find it easier to type in. Also, my handwriting is atrocious. So I can't read my own handwriting sometimes. So it's just easier for me to type things.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I got the keyboard case with the iPad Pro. You mentioned you already had like a Bluetooth keyboard that you're connecting it to. I didn't have an extra one that I could just connect to the iPad. That also makes it, one cohesive sort of device.
It's nice because I can I'm a little more flexible with where I place the keyboard. So that's like one benefit. Like I can kind of move the thing off to the side if I'm doing something else, or that's like one benefit to that. It kind of frees you up a little bit to organize your desk in a little bit more of a way that better suits whatever workflow you're in.
And I also do some photography too, so it's great for, I put Lightroom on there, and I want to talk about the speed. This thing is insanely fast. I couldn't get it to bog down at all. You can do whatever you want, and it does it at a great speed.
I want to edit a video with you on this.
Yeah.
See how that experience is.
Yeah. We can test the how to handles my new camera's video codec, which my brand new computer that I built just a couple months ago struggles to edit. So we'll see how the iPad Pro handles that video.
I'm into that. Yeah, we'll do that for sure. The one thing I'm definitely interested in, the one thing that also like my complaint about it is the software experience isn't fully there yet.
Yeah.
I think that iOS is definitely behind a few steps, and one of my hopes is that they improve that experience into 2019. But we'll get into that later. But the one thing I think they missed out was the pencil, in that double tap gesture, which is kind of a pain in the butt to use. I feel like they should have just went with what the Surface did, and if you just flip it, it uses the other end as like an eraser or as the alternate gesture.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been. I feel like you have two ends to a pencil. I feel like that would have been a missed opportunity there.
Yeah.
But
it probably does have an accelerometer in there, but
yeah. But number one pick, iPad Pro for both of us.
Yeah. So that was the looking back at 2018, and now we look into the future and see what 2019 will bring us, what we think, what we're hopeful that it will bring us. So these are predictions. We don't have a crystal ball that we can see the future in, but
I'm definitely curious to following up on this the next time we do this and seeing if we were right or wrong.
Yeah, I want to look back end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020.
Yeah,
2020. It's weird saying that. And looking back, get a scorecard.
Yes.
Who was right and who was wrong.
Yeah. So let's like kind of briefly walk through some of these and not spend as much time on it, but you know.
Yeah. We got biggest improvement is the first category. So sort of things you want to improve from what you saw last year. Let's see, you can I started the last section, so you can go with yours. And related to what we were talking about earlier.
My hope for 2019 is more Soldier Boy products. That's about all I can say for it. I just want to see more of that, just because it's entertaining to get that kind of tech every once in a while that's like very clearly a rip off of well-known stuff and uses questionably legal software to achieve its goals. But more Soldier Boy, please. I want some of that for 2019.
For me, my number one improvement is you might have heard me stumble over how to say Apple's new phone name. Sort of Apple's improvement in terms of their naming scheme, also their strategy in terms of have phones. We've been seeing this trend of getting more and more expensive phones out. I want to see something more focused and better tiered towards, something that people can use and research. Some rumors around Apple's not selling the best, right? People aren't buying the new phones. They're not really doing anything innovative. I want to overall just an improvement in terms of their strategy towards the mobile market.
More importantly, the names.
Yes.
Because it takes more than a breath to say that the most expensive phone in their lineup.
Yeah.
The iPhone tennis match.
For yours, number 2.
Yeah. Number 2 is sort of related to what we've talked about before. This is more towards the Apple side of it, but Android, I feel like, also definitely deserves some love in this department, and that is the tablet software experience getting an overhaul, and we are just now starting to see that in Android with the Pixel Slate being one of the first Android tablet devices to run full Chrome OS, which I think is a solid user experience for anybody using one of those devices, and the fact that it can run full Android applications within an emulator I think is a bonus. So you get the best of both worlds, but I think Android and Google more specifically have realized that they don't have a very good solution for tablets. And I think Apple is starting to realize that too. So I think hopefully over the next year, fingers crossed, I really hope this year, if not maybe in definitely 1 or 2 more cycles, I think we're going to see some significant improvements to the iPad. And that's one of my big speculations, whether it's true or not. That's my hope for their software. And if they can bring iPad and iOS closer even a little bit to Mac OS, I think that this device that we both picked as our number one choice for the home tech will become even more powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
So, can you imagine an ARMS, this CPU powering a Mac OS device?
Yeah.
if it's optimized the same, like that would be incredible.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah,
it definitely would be. I'm curious to see what iOS 13 brings. So preview of my number one pick. That's my number one for biggest improvement.
What,
but for
Soulja
number
Boy?
two,
Oh.
no, tablet. So my number two for biggest improvement is YouTube Rewind. I put this in here not as the whole YouTube Rewind controversy, but I think as a bigger picture, just improving sort of YouTube as a platform as a whole, because they've run some bumps this year.
More recognition to the creators.
Yeah, so there's some really awesome creators on there, and I think they've been overshadowed by all the craziness happening by these idiot. I don't have a problem any other word for it.
I would say misguided
people on there like Logan Paul and others, which are just putting out just crap content that people are watching, and that's what fuels their sort of need to sort of make that type of content. And and there's also some issues around demonetization of certain content that sort of gets caught in sort of the YouTube's automatic detection system, and that aren't collecting marked, and there's just a lot of issues around YouTube as a platform. And I don't know about you, but I love it, and I just subscribe to the people who I care about, and I watch sometimes on a daily basis, and I'll look forward to their content. It's my number one way of watching content. I don't really watch TV anymore other than sports.
Yeah.
So I use YouTube quite a bit to watch content, and I really enjoy the people on there. And I feel like all these kind of issues and controversies are so overshadowing. I really want for YouTube to start focusing on the creators, and highlighting those people who really matter on the platform. Because if not, I think more and more people are willing to leave to something else. But also, on the other hand, I don't know where they would go. Because YouTube's the biggest one. That's pretty much where if you want to make money on the internet. As a video creator, it's pretty much where you have to be.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So I just.
Where are you gonna go? Vimeo?
Yeah.
Soulja Stream.
Soulja Stream. Yes. Yes. 1,000% yes.
Yeah.
We should launch iFurrow on Soulja Stream.
Oh yeah, no, that's where we're going immediately if he launches that platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think we should just silo ourselves in Soulja Stream and corner that market. Honestly,
it's great marketing plan. No, I just think overall, I think YouTube just needs to really get their crap together, and focus on what really matters, and getting great content, highlighting people's talents, and creating great educational content. That's one of the things I watch the most. Really, really awesome educational content, insightful people. Talk about the things that they know, and really teaching the community about their skills, and some really awesome stuff on there. And none of that was highlighted in Rewind. All of it was just all the top-notch videos, which are just, in my opinion, maybe I'm too old, but it's just crap.
Yeah,
that I don't care about. Yeah. Maybe I'm just old, and I'm only 28, and it feels weird for me to say that, but I think majority of people who watch YouTube are like 13-year-olds.
Yeah. That's PewDiePie's gang.
Yeah.
But yeah,
sort of a long-winded number two, but I just felt like I needed to say that.
No, that's a good one. I fully agree with that. Number one for me, and this is something that would be definitely kind of kicking the butt for Google and Amazon, would be if Siri had some major improvements. Especially if the rumors of a cheaper HomePod product are true for later in the year, and they start to, because what you were saying they're not doing as well, they may start kind of shooting out ideas for budget options in order to boost their numbers. One of those options, which may be a quick sell, is a Echo Dot or Google Home Mini style HomePod. And I wouldn't be surprised if along with those devices also comes updates to the overall experience of Siri. And when you look at the experience, I think that Siri has definitely improved in 2018. It's definitely not the best by far. And a lot of the tests that people run are more or less unfair because they just play to the strength of one or the other. Siri's good in some cases. Amazon's really good in some cases. Google Home is really good in a lot of cases, but it's still weak in some areas. But my hope is that we see a little bit more come to Siri down the line, just because it's good to have competition in that AI space. And I think that having three big compelling companies step into this market would be beneficial to everybody, just because it pushes innovation forward. Even if it's coming from Apple, which is rare. It would be definitely a new year if they were the driver of innovation. Usually they're rumored to just be the people who just pick up the best stuff from the past 2 years and make it into a final thing.
Yeah,
but
they used to be known for their innovation a while back, but not anymore.
Yeah.
And for my number one is just improvements on iOS and iPad. Matt talked about this earlier on just overall tablet experience, improving that. Just along those same lines, having that sort of macOS-like experience on the iPad, I think will bring that device to the next level.
That'd be killer.
I really hope it might be a baby step. In iOS 13, I don't think they'll make the full jump to that level, but we'll see some glimpses of what that might look like for future iPad devices. And I'm excited to sort of hear or see what they would like to bring. I think a lot of stuff was pushed. It was supposed to sort of release in iOS 12, but I think they decided to focus on stability and speed improvements, which helped out a lot in terms of the older phones in iOS 12. So I think this is just speculation, but we're in 2019 speculation. But I think iOS 12 was supposed to be that sort of rehaul in terms of how you use the iPad, and that was supposed to launch with the new iPad Pro, and I think sort of got misaligned. So hopefully in iOS 13, a lot of those changes that were rumored to be planning in terms of the experience of how to use not just the phone but the iPad as well will come in iOS 13. So we'll hear more about it during WWDC this year. I'll get that beta out, and both Matt and I will be running that beta immediately. And we will endure all the bugs as long as we can get that OS version on our iPad.
As soon as possible.
Yep.
Let's kind of skim through the biggest fears.
Yeah.
A lot of it I feel like is obvious, but not number 3 for both of us. Not a lot of people would choose us to pick those ones, but
so number 3 for me, it was sort of related to what I talked on the biggest improvement in for number 2 is Logan Paul.
Their biggest improvement could also be their biggest downfall.
Yes, I want less of him and more of everyone else. For yours, this was new to me. This Dr. Fuji guy.
I'm impressed that you've managed to watch some of these bigger tech reviewers for as long as you have without experiencing the legendary Dr. Fuji at CES. So this man is a very eccentric guy who wears a lot of 80s exercise gear and like very crazy outfits while he showcases some of his products for wellness in CES. And he's become a bit of a meme amongst some of the tech reviewers in his ridiculous products that get announced, and his just incredibly optimistic attitude about these products. I encourage anybody who's listening to go and watch, just go in and search on YouTube or Google just Dr. Fuji CES, and you will be thoroughly entertained for probably close to 20 minutes to an hour, just like looking up in this rabbit hole of videos. But 95% of what he sells tends to be vaporware, or what he's touting is vaporware. But my biggest fear for 2019 is that one of his products eventually does make it to market, and it becomes like a top seller, and it's more or less of a baseless fear, but it's more in the same hope that Soldier Boy makes a comeback, where it's probably not going to happen, but I will be thoroughly blown away and terrified if it does. But yeah, I encourage everybody to look that up. Dr. Fuji. I want to hear. We're both kind of in the same mark for number 2.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I put China for number 2 here.
Just China.
Overall,
that's it.
just fear of China. You know.
Yeah, they got that wall. All right, let's move on.
No, I mean overall, just there's been a lot of sort of speculation around Xiaomi and all the tech-related things.
Huawei too.
Huawei. Sorry, I meant Huawei. I don't know what I talked about. I mean Xiaomi is sort of related in there, but I mean Huawei in particular. You're right, Matt. It's Huawei. But fears of getting them getting into the U.S. market, sort of pushback from the government aspect of it, and overall just their sort of power that they might have over how our data is handled, or what access do they have, and it's sort of related to what you were talking about. Your next
because mine is breaches. More generic, just data breaches. We saw a lot, and we talked about probably once a week some kind of data breach that happened. And when I was combing through the episodes for our top list of my favorite articles, I almost every one of them had a leak or a breach or some kind of hack or something, whether it was a Hungarian stealing subway information, or some guy who stored his files that he stole from Apple in a folder called Hacky Hack Hacks or something like that. It's stuff that we're finding that a lot of the software that we rely on every day for things, all the way from just communicating with family, all the way to work and business, and even Equifax size breaches. A lot of the software isn't secure, and we're seeing this push for white hat hackers, and sometimes even pushback against white hat hackers when some of these breaches are exposed, and we're quickly learning who is among the good guys and who's among the bad guys when it comes to which company values your data and makes an effort into correcting issues that are discovered with them. Because for me, it's not necessarily who has had the largest number of breaches, it's who has fixed all of the breaches that they've been against them, because it shows to me that they're committed to the product. But a big fear of mine is that we haven't seen the end of it, and I can guarantee you that that's going to happen. We are going to talk about breaches. It's just a matter of how big the scale and who is impacted. So that's number 1 can be related. It's for both of us.
Yeah, number 1 for me is Mark Zuckerberg. I just fear that guy. He's Android, and I don't trust him.
He's a lizard too.
He's a lizard android.
He's the Mecha Godzilla of Silicon Valley.
I just fear for what the type of power he has, and the from what we've seen more and more from the hearings in Congress, and sort of his sort of disregard in terms of users' privacy, and the effect that his platform actually has on people, and how they use it and the way that they acquire information. I don't think he realizes it, and Facebook has so much power. So many people use it.
Yep.
In terms of just getting their information, and I really hope that we see some improvement on that end. Maybe we need some regulation in place to help with that.
Zuckerberg doesn't seem to be fully aware of the responsibility that he has too.
Yeah.
Which is something that is definitely not great.
Yeah. So that's my number 1.
That's fair.
I don't want Mark Zuckerberg as my overlord.
Yeah, no, me neither. I'm okay with not having Zuckerberg as my overlord. But let's go through our last or second to last topic. The other one is kind of a very minor one-off thing. That doesn't make a big deal at all. But we have some speculation from the events, the big three phone events that are going to inevitably happen in 2019, from Samsung, Apple, and Google. I don't think you specifically went with phone manufacturers.
No,
that's fine. But
I didn't. Well, I did for one, but not for the others. But I think the first.
We don't have to go in order on this one. It doesn't really make a difference. They're not.
I mean, we could start from the bottom, just like we did for the other ones. For me, it was speculations of getting or very near in DSLR level of quality in terms of phone cameras. We're getting really close, and in terms of just the processing that's applied on the current state of phones, like I talked about earlier on the Pixel 3, is just way better than you get on a DSLR. I mean, when you take a picture on those types of big cameras with the lenses, like, you have to sort of edit them afterwards. You can't really straight use them out of the camera. But getting that level of quality on these smartphones, and I think is the next step. I'm hopeful. I mean, we saw amazing improvements in the Pixel 3, Pixel 4 phone. I can't even imagine what they'll do with their next iteration. But I think, it's more tied to Google because I think they're still number one. I really hope Apple now gets a kick in the butt and steps up their game and gets on Google's level. I mean, they have the talent within Apple to do that, or maybe they just take a different philosophy and not focus on the straight out of the camera great pictures. We'll see. But
it seems like they're going more for like a flat image, something that's a little bit more editor friendly, something that it's a little more ambiguous as to the direction.
It's also more natural looking, right? So it's not as people like. Most people who aren't photographers really like that punchy color, really strong contrast, like it makes the pictures look amazing. And that's what the Pixel 3 outputs. And like you mentioned, the iPhone gets a more flat, neutral image, but it's also very color accurate. So it's depending on what you like. But I think for most people, I think Pixel 3 knocks that out of the park if they just want to take a picture and share it on Facebook or Instagram.
It's closer to the final product for 90% of people.
But for DSLR level, you need to have that, exponential improvement in terms of the portrait effect that people call it, getting that blurry background where it's indistinguishable from actually using a quality lens and doing it mostly in software. I think we're getting close to that level, and also getting that image quality up in terms of. We've been staying at a certain megapixel range for a while now, and I know that the image quality is not defined by the amount of megapixels that you have in the phone, but I think having that more quality inside of the phone in terms of getting that really clean picture even at that low light level, we're getting really close to that.
I agree.
So that's just what I meant. I want that to happen. I don't know if it will in 2019. Maybe it will be more 2020, but we'll see.
I think we'll get closer, incrementally closer. My pick for number 2, and it's seemingly more realistic now that we have one for the iPad, but it will be a USB Type-C connection for the next generation of iPhone. I don't know how much into detail I can get about it. It's pretty much cut and dry for what it is. But it would be nice to see Apple move in with the rest of the industry, and also not only that, but the rest of their products, and finally cut the Lightning connector off at the head and move into this Type-C market.
So I know, Lightning made sense at the time when they launched it because there really wasn't anything else. But now that USB-C is out, I think they just need to bite the bullet and just jump over before it's too late, right? If they wait another generation, more and more people getting more and more Lightning accessories. It's just better, I think, if they do it sooner rather than later.
Although I don't know. It takes courage.
It does take courage.
But I think like then that actually takes courage, unlike getting rid of the headphone jack. But the thing that I want to see like with this USB-C connection is just like the push to standardize, and the fact that Apple went with Qi for their wireless charging was a big plus. And the fact that their tablet went to Type-C, which acknowledged the pro market and being able to, this is probably more specifically done for modern DSLRs than anything else. But it does open you up to being able to use a new display, like to be able to connect a second display to your iPad, to be able to do anything that you might want to do.
For my number 2, I had budget iPhone. So we've been hearing a lot of rumors around Apple having a little trouble selling their iPhones this year. But I think most people have sort of reached that peak phone, and they don't really see a need to upgrade. And I think for Apple to sort of succeed in the next year or 2 years, I think they really need to focus on the budget market, especially in emerging markets like China and India. I think those markets are going to be huge for them, and they haven't really been doing that well because their phones are just too expensive over there. And in the U.S. too, we could use some budget phone love like we've been getting from the OnePlus series, but
we're seeing this with the 10R. When they first marketed it, they marketed it as the budget alternative, because they were like, you can get this phone, starts at this price, but wait, how about these for $750? Hey, look at those. If they had just taken $100 off that phone, people would be buying it like crazy. Because then it would become a budget. But $750 is still too much for a phone that compromises where that does.
I said in my speculations sub 400, but I'd be happy around 5, maybe 600 at max.
It's suffering from the same problem the Essential phone had.
Yeah.
Which is a very overhyped product for just a little bit too much. Yeah.
Maybe they get the cost of manufacturing down from like getting the Face ID sensor, because I think they are moved on from fingerprint. Overall, they're done with that sort of phase. They're gonna go full in on the Face ID. I think if they get, this would be the third generation by then. Maybe get the price down for that. Maybe not include an OLED screen like they did in a 10R, but I know that was sort of some revolution in technology to put an LCD screen apparently in the 10R. I don't understand the tech, but according to Apple's marketing, it was. But
they had to like fold the panel across the bottom of the phone.
Yeah, getting that etched screen on an LCD panel is apparently hard. Yeah. I'm not doubting that, but I just don't know enough to comment on it. So hopefully, hard. Yeah, hopefully they get into that lower price market, because I think that will really help them. People are just tired of paying $700, $800 on their phones, and they're like, yeah, it works fine and runs all the apps that I need. I really need to upgrade.
They have to kill the Apple tax.
Yeah.
So moving on to number 1.
Yeah, something else that needs to be killed apparently to you.
It's not that I want it to be killed. It's that I'm just convinced that it's on the way out. And I think that 2019 with the Note, not the S9 or the S10, but I think with the Note 10, I think you see the headphone jack go away.
Interesting you picked the Note, because that's typically the bigger device. So I think you'd have more room on there to keep it on.
Bigger two styluses.
Dual wielding.
Yeah, but I think that I don't know, but because we're seeing the rumors of them getting rid of it in their budget options, so I think it's maybe them trying to wean their market into getting used to and getting over the fact that they are getting rid of it. So, and I think that if the one thing to keep an eye out for that I think is that if you see a pair of USB Type-C headphones get shipped with those budget Samsung devices, then I think you may see a push to get rid of that headphone jack sooner than later, because then they have these headphones that are now in the market too. But that's just what I think. That's going to be the big thing. And when that happens, it is going to be so fun to cover, because the tweet storms that are going to happen from that are going to be fantastic. So that's why that's my number 1.
And for my number one, I think the era of the notch will be over or starting to be over.
That's the hole
for
punch
this year.
year.
Yeah, hole punch year with the cutouts. Yeah, we've been starting to see because Samsung released a budget phone with that sort of hole punch sort of design. Maybe Apple will adopt it, although I think it's their sort of look by now. It's their signature look. I don't know if they'll move on or they can even fit all those sensors that they need for Face ID into cutouts. But I think, notches was just a phase that the industry went through this past year. And
it's going to be like bell-bottom jeans, and we look back on it, and we're just like, whoa.
Yeah. It's not going to think about it. It's just a phase, guys.
Yeah,
We're
it's like
gonna
the
move
70s. On.
Yeah. So more and more phones I can think gonna have that cut out. I don't know how much improvement that will make. I think the next step after that is it's more of a 2020 speculation and under the display sort of front-facing camera.
Apparently,
pretty awesome.
Samsung is working on the ability to make transparent OLED pixels, so that way they can hide a camera under the display.
They already kind of have that with the under-screen fingerprint sensor, because that's pretty much a rudimentary camera that they're using behind the OLED panel. So,
I wouldn't imagine the tech for that would be very similar. I can't imagine that it would be very difficult to translate the fingerprint scanner into a camera. So that was our big 3 phone speculation section, and then a couple miscellaneous. You put on here foldable budget smartphones. Yeah, because that's usually what we see. Like remember the LG Flex, that like really weird curved LG like budget phone that came out of probably like 5 years ago. Like I think we're gonna see a couple of like budget like pseudo foldable devices. People trying to push out a concept idea, and by budget I mean sub $1,000, because we've seen the rumors of the Samsung foldable phone, just because of how much that's rumored to cost. It's starting at like $1,600, but I think that's just something that we're probably gonna see. It's been a rumor for a long time, and I think next year we finally see the first product come from that. But the other one that is more realistic, in my opinion, is the second-gen Pocophone, because it has been a very successful device. I think it's only logical to expect a second one this year, and I'd be curious to see what those improvements are that come to that device. But yeah, I think that's the end of this incredibly long New Year's episode.
But I think that was a good amount of information. We discussed a lot, and we looked back at 2018, and then looked into the future, and looked at our iPhone crystal ball and see what we think might happen. And we'll be curious to, like you mentioned, test this at the end of the year and see how we make out. And what predictions do and don't come true. But it's been,
unless we're all murdered from Dr. Fuji's CES vaporware. But carry on.
I just want to say it's been an amazing 2018. Look forward to 2019 in terms of the podcast and overall. Matt and I had a strategizing session for what we want to do for this year. We got some exciting stuff coming. So look out for more and more awesome content,
big and small.
More and more awesome content coming your way. Of course, you can find us in all the different channels where you can find podcasts. We're everywhere. So if you just want to search for Industry 4.0,
except for Overcast, those jerks, I can't find us on Overcast.
We'll get that sorted out.
That'll be fixed.
We're looking on Overcast.
I don't know what else. SoldierCast, somewhere else. We'll get it.
If you feel like you want to leave us a review, you can go ahead and do that at bit.ly.com or bit.ly /i40 review. You can do that. It really does help us out, get those rankings up within iTunes.
Heck yeah,
man. When you wanna, I pretty much did the close for you, man.
You did, yeah. You made my job easy. But yeah, so without any further ado, that has been episode 80, and we will see you guys next week. Hopefully sooner because we were late on this episode, but stay tuned for episode 81. See you guys.
It poses a really big threat.
That is a multi-layered attack.
It's malicious in intent, design, and implementation.
That means that education on these topics needs to be more readily available.
This stuff is important.
There to completely delete everything off your computer.
We do have some fun stuff from Apple,
Google and
Tesla,
Intel.
This is some next level announcement stuff.
Update your computer.
Like, how is she qualified for this role?
it's like making a film major a programmer, man.
Exactly.
Hola up, we dem boys of I4O. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 8 of Industry 4.0, the only podcast that suggests that you regularly update your printer drivers.
Welcome to Industry 4.0.